On the menu today, we're going to do a beef vegetable soup. And you know what? This is the simplest soup you want to make. There's really not a whole lot of stuff to it. You can go in the cabinet, get whatever vegetables you like. You throw them in there. You throw in some tomatoes, some diced tomatoes, some rotel, anything you have in that cabinet. And what I like to do is use ground beef. So what I'm going to start doing is I bought 2 pounds of ground beef, probably about an 80%. And I'll drain off that excess fat, but I wanted some fat in there to give it some flavor. So, without all that hoopla, we're going to go ahead and get started on making this beef vegetable soup right here on Cooking Up Grub. First thing I want to do is go ahead and start off and heat up my Dutch oven. And I'll put this on about a medium to medium high. And go ahead and get some heat going in here. And I'll unpack all my groceries. Start out with the beef first. I'm going to go ahead and brown off 2 pounds of ground beef. This is going to be a really good hearty beef vegetable soup. I got quite a few vegetables I'm going to put in here. I got some fresh vegetables and I have some canned vegetables. So, and I'll go through what I'm putting in here as we get into that. So I'll go ahead and open up my ground beef. And start getting that fried down or cooked down. Shouldn't take too long to brown off 2 pounds of ground beef. Remember guys, when you're using one of these Dutch ovens, you do not want to put metal in there. You want to definitely go with a wooden spoon or a plastic spoon. Go ahead and break this up. And the one thing I like in my beef soup, beef vegetable soup, is to leave this ground beef a little bit chunky. You definitely want this to be a little bit on the chunky side. You want some bite to it. All right, so I'm gonna brown this off, and as I'm browning it off, I'm gonna go ahead and add some flavor to it by adding in some salt. You wanna season this stuff in layers. And I'm gonna go ahead and add in some pepper. All right, while that ground beef is cooking down, I'm gonna start prepping some of my fresh vegetables to go in here. I'm gonna go ahead and strain off this ground beef. And this is good to do before this Dutch oven gets too hot. I can actually go ahead and pick up by the handles and strain off that ground beef. Now leave all that stuff in the bottom of the pan. That's flavor right there. You don't want to lose that. And as you can see, the ground beef, I've got some pretty good sized chunks in there. I left it chunky, remember. We don't want to have it chili base. That's perfect. Let's go ahead and shake off that fat. And dump it back in the pot. Now that I've got that ground beef in the pot, I'm gonna go ahead and add some of this beef stock on top of it, just so I don't burn it. And that'll start cooking into the beef as well and start adding some really good flavors to it. And while this starts to simmer, and I'm gonna turn the heat back a little bit on this, I'm gonna go up to about medium. And I'll go ahead and start cutting up some vegetables. So here we go. I got a couple of nice sized carrots that I'm going to go ahead and trim them down, get some of this stuff off of them. Potato peelers are perfect for this. And peel off that outer layer of dirt, that old looking stuff, make them look nice. Like I said, I'm going to dice these up into smaller than bite-sized pieces. That looks really good. I bought 3 of these, and I don't know that I'm going to need all 3 of them, but it's better to have too much than not enough. Once you cut them down, it really makes for a lot of pieces of carrot. So You don't want to overpower that dish by putting too much of one thing, and it overpowers everything else. All right, so that's our carrot. I'll go ahead and put these over on the chopping block. These carrots and the potatoes will take the longest to cook, so I want to go ahead and get these cut to where I want them, and that way I can go ahead and start putting them into the stock, into that soup. Let that soup start cooking these things down. And I'm going to quarter these. And then from there, I'll just go ahead and start cutting them up. All right, I think that's beautiful. Now we got some potatoes here, and I'm going to go ahead and clean these up. I'm going to leave the skins on these. I think that skin's going to give it a lot of flavor too. These little new baby potatoes, the skins are really flavorful, and they'll soak up whatever flavors you have in that soup, and it'll just add to it. So I'm going to clean these up. I think we're good. I'm going to leave a few of those in here. I probably won't use all of these potatoes. That's a lot of potatoes to go into that soup. And I got my potatoes all lined up here, and I'm just going to do some rough cutting on this. The carrots and potatoes, like I said, they're going to take the longest to cook, so we'll put those in first. And I'm going to rough cut this. After all, it's a soup. One more little thing I'm going to put in here is some cabbage, and I'm not going to use this whole cabbage. And I just want to kind of rough cut this cabbage. And like I said before, everything is bite-sized. Nothing is going to be overwhelming. All right, so now what I'm going to go ahead and do is add in my V8 juice. And this is going to really bump it up a notch. This is the original 100% 8 vegetables in that V8 juice. Just pour that in there. Now, one thing I will tell you is that we've added a lot of stuff to this. So we definitely need to go ahead and hit it with some more salt and pepper. Because remember that cabbage, that carrot, the potatoes, there was no seasoning on any of that at all. So we're going to have to add in a couple tablespoons of salt. The potatoes and carrots are going to soak up a lot of that. Go ahead and add a little bit of pepper to taste. You don't have to put pepper in it. Check this out, guys. It's looking good, isn't it? And I hadn't even got into the corn, the green beans, the tomatoes, or the Lima beans. I can't forget the Lima beans. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting some of that in there right now. What I'm going to do is go ahead and I'm going to drain these off. I don't need the juices in these cans. I just bought a little can of limas. Alright, so I'm going to finish opening this. Some good old sweet corn. There you go. And the same thing here. Gonna drain that juice off. Don't need all that extra corn juice in there. The corn itself is the flavor. And like I said earlier, that fire roasted diced tomatoes. Now I'm just going to dump this whole can in there. And this pot's getting pretty full. And now that everybody's in the pool, as I like to say, give it a good stir. Oh, you want to see it? There you go. Look at that. We got the cabbage, the corn, the green beans, the carrots, the lima beans, the tomato. So now I'll just let this simmer for a couple hours, and I'm gonna come back and check the taste, make sure that we've got enough liquid, because if we have to add a little bit more beef stock, I've got another one that I can add to that. And so now it's just a sit back and wait. It's one of those things you can put it on low, cook it all day long, really don't have to worry about it, and then by the time the evening comes and you're ready to eat, this thing is gonna be wonderful. We're going to pair this up with some cornbread. So I'll come back to you with the finished dish. We're going to have it all plated up, and it's going to be delicious. I'll see you in a little bit. So one of the things I didn't tell you is to add about 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce in there. It really adds to the beefy flavor. Oh, man, it is so good. And I'm just going to eat me some of this soup. Don't that look good? Some of that fresh carrot, fresh potatoes, green beans, corn, onion, the lima beans. That's a good beefy vegetable soup right here. So anyway, guys, there you go. Simple, easy. Just pull stuff out of your cabinet, put it in a pot. One of the things I like to add, a little more pepper. Simply to your taste. And I always like to use hot sauce. I put a little hot sauce in there. My favorite hot sauce. Little Texas Pete. Got a couple of dollops in there. Add a few drops. Mix that around in there. Just gives it that little zesty, tangy flavor. A little bit of a bite of heat, but not much. Go ahead and throw that pepper on there. Something about soup and pepper. They just go well together. And this bowl's getting hot. So there you go. Beefy vegetable soup. I wish you guys had smell-o-vision. It smells good. And it really tastes good too. We're going to make up a big old batch of cornbread. I got my brother coming over tonight. He's getting married next week on Friday, so he's coming into town here to Myrtle Beach. We're going to do a collab video here next, him and I both, since he's in town. I don't know what we're going to cook yet, But I want you guys to stay tuned for that, because the Giles brothers are coming together. We're going to cook you a really good meal next. Anyway, hey, this is Cooking Up Grub. My name is Dan Giles. And look, you guys be kind to each other out there. And if you're going to eat well, okay? See you in the next video.